It is Saturday, March 7th, 2026. What was forecast as the most dangerous, severe weather day of the year delivered on that promise in the worst possible way. At least 8 people are dead across 3 states. In Michigan, a supercell thunderstorm spawned a devastating tornado near 3 rivers that prompted a particularly dangerous situation warning. 3 people were killed and 12 injured near Union City as houses were launched into the air. 1 person was killed in Cass County, where multiple large structures, including homes and pole barns, were completely destroyed. Governor Gretchen Whitmer activated the State Emergency Operations Center and declared a state of emergency in Branch, St. Joseph, and Cass counties. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, a tornado ripped through the north side of the city near 36th Street North and Lewis Avenue. More than 6,000 customers lost power. A gas leak forced road closures. 2 people were killed in Beggs in Okmulgee County, about 30 miles south of Tulsa, where a tornado carved a 4-mile path of destruction. Governor Kevin Stitt confirmed tornadoes hit both Beggs and Tulsa. And this all came just 1 day after a mother and her 13-year-old daughter were killed near Fairview, Oklahoma, when an EF2 tornado struck their vehicle on Highway 60. Jet, Oklahoma took an EF2 hit. Clio Springs took an EF1. A cyclic supercell tracked over 150 miles through the Ohio River Valley, producing an EF1 in Crawford County, Illinois, and an EF2 in Bloomington, Indiana, with widespread damage. 2 people died in Nebraska in a crash caused by wintry conditions from the same storm system. This has been the deadliest severe weather outbreak of 2026 so far. And today, it is not over. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now let's move on. Saturday, March 7th. The threat continues. The cold front that drove Friday's devastation is sagging east and south today. Severe storms are expected from the eastern Great Lakes down through the deep south to the Texas Gulf Coast. 2 separate slight risk areas are in play, one from eastern Kentucky and western West Virginia up through Pittsburgh and Buffalo, and another from just east of Laredo, Texas toward Alexandria, Louisiana. A marginal risk connects these zones from the Texas-Mexico border through the eastern Great Lakes. The ingredients that fueled Friday's extreme storms have lost some energy, but the atmosphere remains volatile. Wind is the primary concern today. Damaging gusts between 60 and 70 miles per hour are expected in the Deep South and Tennessee Valley. Quarter to half-dollar hail is possible in the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley. Storms in Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas could produce 2-inch hail. A few brief tornadoes remain possible in both the Ohio Valley and Deep South. The slow-moving storm line sags toward Houston, Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Jackson, Mississippi through the day. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and the Buffalo area could see a couple of tornadoes squeezed from the line as it passes through. Storms are already developing across parts of Texas tonight, the Texas Panhandle and northwest Texas. By evening, the storms weaken as they cross the Appalachians. Sunday should finally bring a break. Daylight saving reminder. Spring forward tonight. Clocks move ahead 1 hour at 2 a.m. Sunday morning. This means 1 less hour of sleep, but also a critical shift in how you receive overnight tornado warnings. If you are in any of today's risk areas, make sure your phone alerts and weather radios are active before bed. Some of the deadliest tornadoes in history have struck at night when people are sleeping. The Fairview, Oklahoma tornado that killed a mother and daughter hit after 8 p.m. Thursday. Tornadoes do not care what time your clock says. Make sure you can be woken by a warning. The flooding story deepens. This week's repeated rounds of rainfall have left soils saturated across the southern plains, Mississippi Basin, and Ohio Valley. The heaviest rainfall through Monday targets Dixie Alley, East Texas to Alabama, with 1 to 4 inches expected. A secondary pocket over Iowa, northern Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan adds 1 to 2 inches. Flash flooding risk is elevated from the Midwest and Great Lakes down through the southern plains, with a slight risk of excessive rainfall centered on Dallas, Fort Worth, McAlester, Oklahoma, Little Rock, and southern Missouri near Branson. Saturday, the flooding concern shifts east and southeast. Texas into southwest Tennessee needs to watch water levels closely. Paducah, Kentucky, and Nashville remain particularly vulnerable with already saturated soils. The rainfall records broken in Dallas-Fort Worth earlier this week are just the start. Snow on the backside. On the cold side of this system, snow is falling from Colorado through the Nebraska Panhandle into South Dakota, Minnesota, and northern Wisconsin. 1 to 3 inches are expected through Monday morning. Not a blockbuster, but enough to cover the ground and create slick roads. The Cascades and Rockies continue loading up with heavy mountain snow. The contrast is remarkable. Record heat and tornadoes on one side of the front, snow on the other. That is March. Next week, the jet streams are about to phase. This is the setup that should grab your attention. The polar jet to the north and a cut-off low-pressure system near the Baja of California are going to merge, what meteorologists call phasing. When two jet streams phase together, they create one massive storm. This phased system will bring a significant storm to the middle of the country by the middle of next week. Moisture will stream in from both the East Pacific and the Gulf of Mexico. The Storm Prediction Center has already issued a Day 5 slight risk for Tuesday, March 10th. The risk area covers central and west Texas, north Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, the Ozarks, Arkansas, and southern Illinois. Cities in the crosshairs include St. Louis, Jefferson City, Springfield, Missouri, Little Rock, Fayetteville, Fort Smith, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Elk City, Lawton, Dallas, Fort Worth, Texarkana, Wichita Falls, and Abilene. Supercells are expected to fire from Illinois back into Texas by Tuesday afternoon. All hazards are on the table. Damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. Stronger tornadoes are possible with this setup. Heavy rainfall on already saturated ground compounds the flooding threat. The temperature roller coaster. Record highs hit 80 degrees in Kentucky yesterday, mid-80s across the southeast, 70s in Chicago. The cold front moving through today ends the record warmth temporarily. Then a resurgence of warm air builds ahead of next week's phased storm system. An even stronger cold front follows that system. And then by mid-March, models hint at an Arctic blast bringing a brief return of winter with snow and cold air pushing into the central United States. Expect gusty winds coast to coast through mid-March as these air masses battle back and forth. The snow line shifts further south through mid-month. The northern plains, upper Midwest, and New England all see more accumulation as the cold air intrudes. City-by-city predictions. Northeast, New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, D.C., Hartford, Providence, Portland, M.E., Buffalo. Buffalo and Pittsburgh are in the slight risk for today. Damaging winds and a brief tornado possible as the squall line moves through this afternoon and evening. Storms weaken crossing the Appalachians. The warming trend resumes by midweek. The snowmelt flood concern continues to grow. Over 5 inches of liquid equivalent in the Adirondacks, Green Mountains, and White Mountains is poised to release as temperatures surge well above average again next week. The record winter snowpack is becoming a liability. Southeast. Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, Raleigh, Birmingham, Jacksonville, New Orleans. Today's storm line sags into the deep south. New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Jackson, and the Tennessee Valley see wind as the primary threat, with brief tornadoes possible. Nashville and Paducah face continued flooding risk on saturated soils. Record heat resumes next week, widespread 80s and 90s. The southeast drought persists. Drought feeds drought, and models continue picking up on the pattern. Moisture may shift toward Georgia by mid-March as the eastern ridge weakens, but meaningful relief remains elusive. Midwest and Great Lakes, Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Columbus, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Louisville. Michigan is reeling this morning. Governor Whitmer declared a state of emergency in 3 counties. Damage surveys are underway. Indianapolis took a direct EF2 hit in Bloomington earlier this week. St. Louis faces Tuesday's severe threat head-on. Des Moines was in the 10% tornado probability yesterday. Cleveland and Columbus are in today's slight risk. The flooding crisis intensifies. The CPC's moderate risk of heavy precipitation for March 10th to 11 targets the lower Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. Snow is falling across Minnesota and Wisconsin on the cold side of the front. West Coast and Mountain West, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, Sacramento, San Diego, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Boise, Flagstaff, Denver, Albuquerque. Heavy mountain snow continues. Cascades and Rockies loading up. Snow in Colorado and the Nebraska Panhandle today. High winds persist across the Great Basin and Rockies. The cutoff low near Baja will be the southern ingredient in next week's phased storm system. Record warmth in the desert southwest. Denver watches the Front Range winds as the system develops to the east. Plains and South Central. Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Omaha, Denver, San Antonio, Little Rock, Memphis. Oklahoma is in recovery mode this morning. Tulsa, Beggs, Bristow, and Broken Arrow are assessing damage. The storm line sags south today. Houston, Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. Jackson gets storms through the afternoon and evening. Texas Panhandle and Northwest Texas see more development tonight. Then it is only a brief pause before Tuesday's phased storm system fires up the entire corridor again. DFW, OKC, Tulsa, Little Rock, Memphis, and St. Louis are all in the Day 5 risk area. After what happened this week, nobody should take Tuesday lightly. Have your safe rooms identified. Have multiple ways to receive warnings. Be ready. The 2026 severe weather season is here. AccuWeather warned that this year may see fewer tornadoes than last spring's exceptional season, but that damaging winds and flash flooding could be the bigger stories. 3 days of tornadoes across Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan have already proven that fewer does not mean zero. 8 people are dead, dozens are injured, communities are destroyed, and another significant outbreak is loading up for Tuesday. Stay weather aware this weekend. Spring forward your clocks Sunday and prepare now for what is coming next week.